Our guest on Perspectives today is Conneaut School Superintendent Lori Riley. And as of this week, kids are still at home learning, using their computers. And the beginning of this new week, they'll be going back to school. Lori, how have things been going so far since Christmas vacation ended?
Things have been going well. The board decided to have the students go remote the week after Thanksgiving. So they were last in the building on November 19th, and then we had already had conferences scheduled. We had discussed possibly bringing them back for 2 weeks before Christmas, but that's when the cases were rising, and after consulting with the health department and the board, we decided to keep them home remotely, and they will be returning in their pods on January 12th.
Okay, that's Tuesday, correct?
Correct. But everyone thinks we have vacation here, but we are 12-month employees, so I have to give a shout out to our custodial and maintenance teams. We took on some bigger projects once we did go remote, because unlike March when people were staying at home, we have all of our employees coming to work. So we were able to do some bigger painting projects, with bus driver support and parapro support and cafeteria support. People are right now kind of working outside their classifications because they're coming to work. And so we're finishing up some of those big projects so that when the kids come back next week, we'll be all done.
So you might have some cafeteria workers cleaning floors or something like that?
Yeah, well, we not necessarily cleaning floors, but we've done some painting in all the buildings. So right now we're just feeding the kids with bagged lunches every day, and so with their extra time, they might be helping with some of the painting. We have some closets for kids who need clothes. We've been sorting through clothes and getting those rooms spruced back up. So just kind of paying attention to some things. But I just appreciate everybody working kind of outside their classification to make sure we get things done.
So they're going back on Tuesday. They go back 2 days a week. Is that correct?
For now, yes, 2 days a week.
So the other two, and they have, do they have Fridays off?
No, Mondays. When we put the calendar together for the remote learning and the hybrid model, we already had the most Mondays off. And so I chose Monday as our extra cleaning and sanitizing and prep day. So we didn't really have to interfere with, those kids would miss a lot if we would not have done Mondays off. So the kids go to school physically 2 days a week, and then they do the remote using their Chromebooks 2 days a week. Is that correct? 3 days. So Monday, everybody is learning remotely. Okay. Yep, so it's 3 days remote, 2 days in school.
Oh, okay, all right. Speaking of the Chromebooks and all, I remember doing a story about Jefferson schools back in 4, 5, 6 years ago, getting Chromebooks, and it was something that other school systems were looking at. This kind of pushed the decision for everybody to use the Chromebooks. And, was it a good one?
When I first came here 5 years ago, I had a conversation with Brian Chase, and we had talked about eventually moving to one-to-one devices. But as a parent whose child went to a school with a one-to-one device, when they first were issued in her 7th grade year, the teachers didn't really know what to do with them. Certainly by her probably sophomore year, they were being more readily used as the staff knew more. So I hesitated spending taxpayer dollars and just going to one-to-one if we didn't have the training and the knowledge of how to use them. So at the beginning of 19, we were 1 to 2. So there was one device for every 2 students. Okay. And we started using them, staff that supported them more were using them more. We had them more or less on classroom carts. Mm-hmm. But then, once March 11th hit, it really pushed us that way. So we were able to hand some out last spring to families who didn't have any kind of device at home. And then we spent our CARES Act over the summer to make sure that everybody has a device. So we are one-to-one now. But on the teaching end, I mean, I'm really proud of them. You know, they've had to just figure out what to do and how to do it. And, you know, a lot of them took some Google Classroom courses over the summer and are definitely, you know, much farther ahead now because of COVID and the push to have to learn how to use these than if we would have just slowly implemented them over time. So there's been some good things about this.
Right, and the kids, too, to their credit, they had to figure out a few things.
Right. And we also got another grant that provided hotspots to families who maybe did not have internet at home. So they're able to use this hotspot on our device, and they don't have to go anywhere in order for their kids to get their work done. So that was another grant that we had applied and received.
Very good. Now, I'm thinking, hopefully a year from now or whatever, this will all be over. Kids will be able to go to school 5 days a week. They won't be wearing a mask, maybe, who knows. And then there's a winter, there's a snowy day. Will you be, instead of calling people and saying, school's out, you're going to say school's going to go remotely today?
Well, I mean, that's probably a next year issue.
Right.
Definitely this year, if we had inclement weather, I would just keep everybody home and have them remote learning because we do have to have so many hours by the state. And this year, because of our calendar and giving staff some extra time, our mandatory hours is a lot less than what we normally would have. So, you know, it's what an advantage to that is that you don't have to make the time up in the summer. So it'll depend on how much time we have built in. You know, everybody, I don't know how you live in Northeast Ohio and not call at least one clammy day,
right.
No matter what you have. So, you know, we'll definitely look at that. But you know, we don't want to go below the minimum hours and then have kids back in the summer either. I just started working on next year's calendar over when I was working over Christmas break. So, you know, starting to put some things together, and I'm having a hard time right now. I always think long term, but since COVID, I'm only really kind of three-week increments. So, you know, what next year looks like, I'm not prepared for yet. Yeah,
I mean, who would have known this past year what was going to happen? And yeah. I was thinking, well, this will be over. I don't know. I was thinking, you know, school's over in June. The whole thing will be over in June. Ha!
Right,
I mean,
right.
But
I thought it was going to be over after Easter. You know,
right.
We figured when we closed, we would be all, you know, we would do extra cleaning, and then we would be back after Easter. So, yeah, it fooled us all for sure.
Lori Riley, Conneaut School Superintendent's our guest. Kind of talk a little bit about the kids coming back, why that's important, why it's better to have the kids in school than doing it remotely.
Well, I mean, there's so much more than just the learning. You know, anybody can take curriculum and put it on a computer, and you can put a kid in front of a computer and, you know, see what happens. But it's about the connections that we make. It's about the relationships that we build. It's, you know, keeping tabs of each other on our mental health. So that's a big piece of
Sure.
it. And it's just that human interaction. I was fortunate enough before Thanksgiving, I got to Zoom with a kindergarten class in Joel Specht. You know, and imagine like you have a picture-on-picture TV and how hard it is to just watch 2 TV shows at one time. You know, and now we have teachers with, you know, 5 to 20 kids in front of them, all in little boxes on TV. You know, that's on a computer screen. That's not the kind of interaction we want with kids. And we were able to bring, now our Lakeshore students do go 4 days a week. Now they go for less hours in a day, but we are seeing our youngest students for 4 days a week, and then from grades 3 through 12, they're coming just 2 days a week. But it's not enough. I mean, you don't get into this business to think that, you know, you don't want to be with kids and make those interactions with them. So, you know, for everybody's sake, we need to get them back full-time as soon as possible.
Part of the reason I asked that is before we went on the air, I asked how things were going, and you said, okay, but it'll be better Tuesday when the kids come back.
Right.
So
I mean, it's lonely. I mean, I know what it was like for me in March and April and May when, 3 days a week, it was pretty much just, Jackie and I and maybe one administrative assistant would rotate through. You want to see kids and you want to see adults and, we just want people here. Schools were made to have people in them, but we also, we don't want families getting sick. I have disclosed my own family had COVID over Thanksgiving.
Oh.
That was definitely no fun.
No.
So, when you go through it, your mind really changes about really what this can do to somebody or a household or, we're pretty fortunate that we didn't have anyone with significant underlying conditions at my house, but there are families with multi-generations in one home, and, they're concerned too about what could be happening or what kids could be bringing
absolutely.
home with them. So we'll keep doing what's safe. And, I can't say enough about our Conneaut Health Department. I talk weekly with Nichelle Blood. Some days it's daily, when we were kind of in the thick of things. But we don't do anything without the partnership with them. Because this is a medical crisis, and I don't have my MD or even my PhD, so we rely on them to help support us. And if they felt that we needed to do something, we did it because it's just the right thing to do.
The school board meeting in December, there was a suggestion that maybe they get rid of the community service for this year because it's difficult to find places, and there was kind of a pushback on that. Where's that status on that right now?
We have we're going to talk about it. There are a number of students that have hours already in. So we've talked about a couple different options on how do you recognize those students that have met those requirements. The other thing that we're looking at maybe dialing back is in order to count as community service, it has to be a 501(c) corporation. So there's, you can't just maybe mow your neighbor's lawn or, babysit for free. All those things that counted, when I was in Catholic school, that counted as So, how do we, right now with everything going on in our community, how can we still support our neighbors and let that count as community service?
Okay.
So Dr. Neal has sent some things over. We're looking at it, and then we'll kind of talk about that again this week.
You were talking also, I guess, at a school board meeting about volunteering the district to help administer COVID vaccines. Now, I don't want to date myself too much, but I remember as a very young child waiting outside of the new Southeast Elementary to get a sugar cube for some vaccine that I can't remember what it's for now. How would this? What do you have in mind here when you're talking about the school district helping?
Well, and again, in one of those conversations with the health department, certainly with our buildings and when we did not have students in them, we have the space if they needed to look at using our space or our parking lots. The parking lot at the health department is so small. So we've offered physical space to them. School district staff are in phase 1B. There has not been a date as to when we can roll that out, but definitely we're, working and already kind of have a couple plans between us and the health department as what that's going to look like when we can get our staff vaccinated. I'm collecting some data so we know about how many staff members we're looking at. So, rather than just 10 people a day from the school district showing up at the health department to get a vaccination once we can, we want to get everybody done as soon as possible, as quickly as possible,
Sure.
and then the second dose. So, we're working on some of those options, but we've offered, if they need our space to do some bigger clinics or drive, our parking lots, or, they need me to do a registration. I mean, I'm certainly not going to give a shot, but, I can collect a form if they would need the help.
Right.
It's just, there's no real clear guidance. And again, it's where we're fortunate that here in Conneaut, it's just one district and one health department. So, we can kind of just do our own thing once they get the go-ahead to start with us.
Okay, we are out of time. Thank you very much. Lori Riley, Superintendent on Perspectives. I'm Bob Lebzelter.
Have a happy New Year, everyone. Thanks, Bob.